Welcome to your stock request for the 24th of May. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. If you have a stock that you'd like me to have a look at, just email us at mail@fairmontequities.com and I'll have a look at the chart for you next week. In this week's video, we're looking at ANZ, AFG, Tawana Resources, PNV and Capilano Honey. Just a quick reminder, make sure you do share this video on Facebook and Twitter. That way I can get some further requests and further chance to uncover some interesting stocks. And also just remember that any advice here is general only. So starting off with ANZ, so this is a weekly chart going back the last few years. If I zoom in a bit, first thing I've noticed is in terms of how far it's retraced this prior uptrend. So from the lows in 2016, we can see that ANZ rallied from about $22 to about $33. And if we just get our Fibonacci tool, you'll notice that the recent pullback has hit the 61.8% level, and then it's managed to bounce off that pretty well. And we also have to bear in mind that ANZ has also gone ex-div. If we just have a look at the weekly candlesticks here, we can see that there is very good support for the shares. So we've had a nice sort of bounce up here, a retest, and then I guess a few very bullish candlesticks. So what we just need to notice, or what we need to look out for now, is what it might do around these sorts of levels. So there's clearly some resistance here, so we might get a bit of softness in the short term. But I think that if ANZ can push through this downtrend line here, then we can get a fairly decent rally. So definitely one worth watching. Okay, AFG. So I'll just zoom out a bit. We can see from the last 2 years it managed to double in price, but then it's been sold off fairly heavily since then. So that is a bit of a concern here on the weekly chart, just the savage selling from the high. It would have been nice to have seen a flatter consolidation in the share price, not something so heavy. If I just switch to the daily chart, we can see a classic reversal signal there, the evening star formation on the daily. Shares were sold, came back for a retest in a couple of days and then sold off heavily. So a very negative sign. It's starting to flatten out a bit, but as you can see, this is only a daily chart and we're only looking at the last couple of weeks here. So still too early to assume that it might rally. I mean, one positive is if we have a look at what it's retraced so far, it seems to have found support right on the 50% retracement level. But again, just given the savageness of the sell-off, I think it's still too early to be considering buying this one. Tawana Resources, great run up over the last couple of years, 5 cents to 55 cents. A very strong looking uptrend, so we could see it started to really take off here, and then we had a nice sort of flat correction there, broke higher, and we're getting another, I guess a consolidation that's fairly, much more corrective compared to the impulsive moves up. So that's a positive. The other positive is that the volume has been low on the way down, so that's great. So all this volume was on the way up, and then as the shares eased back, there's been a lack of volume, so that's a positive. What we need to now see is a break of this flag formation. So I think it's too early to be jumping in. It might just continue drifting back. But at some point, if it breaks through here, you're going to get a fairly sharp rally. So once you see that breakout, you'll probably have to jump onto that pretty quickly. Okay, PNV, I guess a similar chart to the previous one. Nice impulsive move up and a very flat correction against that uptrend. So basically the opposite of what we saw with AFG. So this therefore looks pretty bullish. Again, look at the volume increasing all the way to the top there, and then virtually no volume as it corrected sideways. So this is a weekly chart, and again, it looks like we might be getting the beginnings of a breakout here. So this one could be a buying opportunity, yeah, very, very shortly. This is the daily chart, so we could see the nice sort of flat consolidation and the shares starting to make a bit of a move. So if we do get confirmation this week, probably a push through 55 cents, a nice weekly close above that, and I think this one will rally fairly strongly as well. Finally, Capilano honey. So just going back the last few years, fantastic run up about 3-4 years ago, and then it's just gone nowhere, unfortunately. It looks like we might have seen the end of a three-wave correction against the trend. So I'm looking at sort of A, B, C, and what's interesting is if we sort of measure the move, so that's wave A, B, C is often 1.6 times A, so we could see that it's pretty much 1.6 times the size of this. So, you know, that's all a positive. It suggests that this correction's over, we should resume the uptrend, but just the shares haven't really got going at all, which is a bit disappointing. I guess a little bit of a concern, but if we switch over to the daily chart, at least for the short term, it looks quite interesting here. So from the peak earlier this year, it seems to be trying to break through this this downtrend, and we can see that if I just zoom in a bit more for the daily chart, we could see the last couple of days have seen a nice move up and volumes kicked in as well. So I think in the short term we're going to get a bit of a move. It's not a very liquid stock, so potentially a short-term trade. Longer term, yeah, it'd be nice to see this thing really start to rally strongly, but up until now, since finding those lows a year ago, it's still been struggling. Okay, well that's it for me today. If you have a request, send it through and make sure you share the video, and I'll be back next week.